the sky over Crimea turned into a battlefield. A wave of Ukrainian drones pierced the darkness and struck deep into the occupied city of Feodosia, hitting one of Russia's most important oil depots. Within minutes, the night exploded into a massive inferno. 11 giant fuel tanks went up in flames. Over 800 people were forced to evacuate. Power stations shut down. The city fell into chaos. This wasn't just another attack. This was a direct hit on Russia's energy lifeline in Crimea. Welcome back to Tactical Signals, your channel for real, on-the-ground war updates, where we decode every move, every strike, and every strategy shaping modern warfare. Today, we're breaking down the Feodosia oil depot strike, what really happened that night, how Ukraine pulled off this high-precision attack, and why this could change the course of the entire war. It was just past midnight, the 13th of October 2025. Most of Feodosia was asleep. The city, sitting quietly on the southeastern tip of Crimea, had become a critical hub for Russian fuel logistics, storing diesel and aviation fuel that kept their southern front alive. Then came the sound. A faint buzzing at first, then louder, a storm of Ukrainian drones sweeping across the sky. Witnesses say the sound grew like a swarm of angry hornets. Moments later, the night ripped apart with the first explosion. The oil depot, located near the Kafa industrial zone, erupted. Flames shot dozens of meters into the air, painting the sky orange. Security footage captured waves of secondary explosions as individual fuel tanks detonated one after another. Russian emergency services scrambled, but it was too late. The fire spread uncontrollably. Locals began fleeing as police sealed off nearby streets. Within minutes, 800 civilians were evacuated, many in their night clothes, rushing out as fuel tanks exploded behind them. By dawn, thick black smoke could be seen from over 30 kilometers away. Russian-installed officials claimed that 20 drones were intercepted. But Ukrainian intelligence sources told a different story. Out of more than 20 attack drones, at least 10 successfully hit their targets, setting the depot ablaze and damaging power substations connected to the Kafa and Simferopol energy grids. That's when it became clear this wasn't an isolated hit. It was a coordinated deep strike, part of a broader Ukrainian plan to cripple Russia's energy backbone in occupied territory. To understand why this strike matters so much, you need to understand Feodosia's role in Russia's war machine. Feodosia isn't just another coastal city, it's a strategic fuel artery. The depot there holds tens of thousands of tons of gasoline, diesel, and lubricants that feed not only Crimea, but Russian troops stationed in southern Ukraine. It fuels supply trucks, tanks, aircraft, and even naval assets docked nearby. By targeting Feodosia, Ukraine didn't just destroy fuel, it attacked the logistics heart of Russia's southern operations. Feodosia sits over 1,000 kilometers from Kyiv's front lines. That means Ukrainian drones, possibly long-range home-built models or Western-modified types, traveled across vast enemy airspace and still struck with pinpoint precision. This is more than a tactical win. It's a technological statement. Ukraine is evolving fast. Let's break down how Ukraine might have executed this complex operation. Military analysts suggest that the attack came in waves. A first swarm to overwhelm Russian radar and anti-drone defenses, followed by a second precision wave targeting the depot itself. These drones weren't your typical small-range FPVs. We're talking about modified long-range strike drones, capable of flying hundreds of kilometers autonomously, guided by pre-programmed GPS coordinates and real-time data from reconnaissance drones hovering high above. Step 1. Reconnaissance. Ukrainian scouts likely use satellite imagery and signal intercepts to map the depot layout, identifying key fuel tanks and transformer units. Step 2. Diversion. Some drones probably attacked radar stations or air defense launchers first, forcing Russian SAM systems like Pantsir S-1 and Tor M2 to waste missiles on decoys. Step 3. Main strike. Then came the main fleet, flying low just 100 to 200 feet above the sea, avoiding radar and striking simultaneously at multiple tanks. Step 4. Impact and chaos. As the tanks ignited, the secondary explosions crippled power systems feeding nearby substations. Within minutes, the entire grid overloaded. Feodosia plunged into semi-darkness. Step 5. Evacuation and disruption. The fires forced a shutdown of roads and railway segments that transported oil from Feodosia deeper into Crimea. Russian logistics in the peninsula were instantly paralyzed. This kind of synchronization requires not just drones, it requires intelligence fusion. That's where Ukraine's growing use of AI-assisted targeting and NATO satellite feeds might have played a role. Every explosion in Feodosia echoed that shift from conventional war to high-tech precision warfare. Russian state media quickly jumped into damage control mode. They released statements claiming that most drones were shot down and the fire was under control. But eyewitness videos told a very different story. By 4 a.m., explosions were still audible. Flames were still visible from miles away. The Ufa substation, one of the key power junctions for southeastern Crimea, was damaged, causing rolling blackouts. Later that morning, satellite images showed at least 5 tanks completely destroyed, with 3 more heavily burned. Moscow called it a terrorist act, promising retaliation. But even pro-Russian telegram channels admitted this attack was precise, devastating, and professionally coordinated. Analysts say the Feodosia strike exposed how vulnerable Russia's occupied infrastructure truly is, especially to low-altitude drone swarms.
Explosions and a massive fire in Feodosia. The previous night, Ukrainian security forces attacked one of the largest fuel hubs in temporarily occupied Crimea, the marine oil terminal, and also several power substations at once, which supplied electricity to the peninsula. The targets were facilities that supply the Russian army with fuel and energy for the war against Ukraine. Details in the report by Danil Dyomin.
The fire turned night into day in Feodosia. That's how visible it was. Drones from the Security Service of Ukraine and Special Operations Forces struck the marine oil terminal. At least 5 huge fuel tanks caught fire. Columns of black smoke rose into the sky above the city. The explosions were heard dozens of kilometers away.
So basically they blew up the oil depot again.
The Security Service of Ukraine continues to systematically reduce the enemy's military, logistical, and economic capability to wage war against Ukraine. Our technical capabilities allow us to cause explosions both in temporary.
The more Russia stretches its air defenses to cover wide territory, the thinner those defenses become. In other words, Ukraine has turned Russia's size into its weakness. Now let's look beyond the flames. This strike affects not just one depot, but an entire chain of logistics. Russia has been relying on Crimea's ports and depots to feed operations across southern Ukraine. With Feodosia down, supply must be rerouted through longer, riskier routes from mainland Russia. That means slower fuel delivery, reduced operational tempo, and increased cost. For Ukraine, that's a victory without firing a single shell on the front line. But the implications go even further. As winter approaches, Crimea's energy supply was already fragile. Now, with major fuel reserves destroyed, heating and electricity in the region could face severe strain. Civilians may experience rationing or power cuts, and psychologically, it sends a terrifying message to Russian troops and citizens alike. You are not safe anywhere. No matter how far you are from the front line, Ukraine can reach you. That fear is powerful. The Feodosia strike fits perfectly into that narrative. But here's what makes it significant. It wasn't just destructive, it was surgical. Ukraine didn't bomb residential blocks or civilian homes. It targeted logistical military fuel infrastructure, legal, under the laws of war. And that matters internationally. By keeping its strikes focused on military-relevant targets, Ukraine continues to gain diplomatic support from Western allies, especially when Russia retaliates by hitting hospitals and civilian grids. Every hit like Feodosia strengthens Ukraine's moral high ground and its strategic credibility. So, what happens now? Russia will likely retaliate with renewed drone and missile attacks on Ukraine's power grid, perhaps targeting Dnipro, Kharkiv, or Odessa. Moscow may also attempt counterstrikes on Ukrainian oil depots using Shahed drones. Ukraine, however, seems undeterred. Sources from Kyiv suggest that the Feodosia strike was only the beginning, part of a broader campaign to systematically dismantle Russia's logistics web across Crimea and southern Russia. Future targets might include rail junctions, ammunition depots, or command centers, anything that feeds the war machine. The Feodosia attack isn't just another event in a long war, it's a symbol of how the battlefield has changed. Once, distance meant safety. Now, drones erase that comfort. Once, big armies ruled by tanks. Now, small, autonomous aircraft rewrite that balance. Ukraine's deep strike into Crimea shows that technology can shift power faster than numbers or territory. It shows that innovation, precision, and intelligence can reshape a war once thought static. And above all, it shows that this conflict is far from over. The fire that burned over Feodosia was more than flames. It was a message written across the Crimean sky. We can reach you. We will reach you. You've been watching Tactical Signals, your trusted source for real-time war analysis, deep breakdowns, and updates from the front lines of modern conflict. If you found this analysis valuable, make sure to subscribe, like, and turn on notifications, because we're tracking every development, every drone strike, every turning point of this war. The battle for the skies has begun. and the world is watching.